I want to start this video off by saying everything you're going to see here is completely legal. All right, what is up? I do that every time where I start out too loud and I peek out the microphone. All right, today back out on the ranch, but it's going to be a little bit of a change of pace. I feel a little bit repetitive, only doing run and gun style workouts on this channel, so I wanted to switch it up a little bit. I want to cover a topic that you've probably seen on YouTube plenty of times, but maybe not this specific subtopic, and it was something that I'd been wondering about, hadn't seen, so I figured, why don't I just go ahead and try it? Today, we've got, well, I guess a couple months ago now, I picked up the Atrius FRT and put it in my 16-inch BCM. So like I've mentioned before on this channel, this is a BCM upper and lower BCM trigger. The barrel, however, I've swapped out to a Geisley 1-in-7 twist 16-inch barrel. I originally had a 14.5 with a pinned and welded muzzle device, A2 flash hider, and I wanted to be able to swap out the flash hider for something that I could run a suppressor on easier. Swapped also that barrel. BCM, I really like what BCM puts out, but I felt like I wasn't getting the accuracy that I wanted to out of it, so switched to a Geisley so that I could just throw a muzzle device on. Went with a Huxworks. It's a flash hider on this rifle. Then a 7.62 Ventum can. Why 7.62? Because while it still does a pretty dang good job of suppressing the sound, I also wanted to be able to run it on a 300 blackout. Also a BCM AR pistol that I have. So I just swap those in between the two whenever I want to shoot that with subs and get real quiet, or run it on here for like competitions and stuff. The added muzzle velocity of the extra 2 inches of barrel plus the added muzzle velocity of the suppressor seems to be pretty nice. I like it a lot so far. Yeah, on that 1-6 Vortex Razor LVPO, 100 concepts, scope caps on there. If anybody runs the 100 concepts rear scope cap, but also runs a trigger cam, scope cam on there, let me know in the comments how you have it set up, because for the competition stuff, a scope cam is something I've wanted to get for the quality of the competition videos as well as these training videos. Like, it would just be way cooler if you could just see what I'm shooting at, right? This ring that retains this cap is not going to be compatible with the scope cam, rather. So I'm thinking, because I screwed it up, I stripped it when I put it in. So I super glued it in there, the little set screw. And so once I take it off, it's pretty much going to be useless. So I'm thinking maybe just a Ranger band with, you know, these knots in the shock cord. A Ranger band might hold it on. So anyways, I'm trying to brainstorm ideas to be able to swap between the scope cam and the cap. But anyways, this video is not about that, and I'm getting way down a separate rabbit hole. But basically, everything is BCM except for the components I mentioned, and I did swap out buffer weights to a H3 buffer weight. So I didn't try the FRT with the regular H weight buffer. When I got the FRT, I just went ahead and put the H3. I didn't want to play with it. And it has run, it's still fairly new, right? Like, I haven't had it but a couple months, probably just a couple hundred rounds through it, but I haven't had any issues with the operation of the rifle or components. Looking in there, if I pop it open, taking a look in there, you know, I can see the lever for the FRT that catches the bolt carrier group. There's no, like, there's a little bit of wear, but nothing bad, just normal, like powder coating wear. And then looking at the BCG, I'm not seeing any wear, but I mean, there's a ton of carbon in there right now. So I have to clean that, look at it. I did that not too long ago and it looked fine. But this video is obviously too soon to talk about reliability of something like this Atrius FRT. I just don't have enough rounds on it. But the topic, long roundabout way of saying this, down to the point, the topic that I wanted to get into today is what kind of grouping can I expect from an FRT? You see so many YouTube videos, and some of them have gone pretty far down the rabbit hole, and those are really good to watch regarding the subject. But I wanted to know, now that I have this capability, right? It's obviously a ton of fun, right? I'll just go burn rounds into the dirt, you know, that's always a great time. But what kind of grouping can I expect from a 5.56 firing really fast semi-auto, right? Because that's technically what we're doing here with FRTs, is being able to get back on that trigger pull much faster than we previously were able to. So what I'm going to do today in order to test this is going to get a baseline at 100 yards with some of these cardboard IPSCs, figure out, I think I'm going to do about 5 rounds. So kind of like a sustained rate. What would be a sustained rate? What will that cone of fire be at 100 yards, 300 yards, and then the beaten zone roughly at 700 yards, which is obviously the, like, pretty close to max effective range. Obviously, the closest comparable metric to this, I think, would be the 249 SAW, which is, of course, a full auto-rated belt-fed machine gun. And whereas this is obviously semi-automatic with an assist of the reset of the trigger. Some differences, obviously, in that weapon system is it being open bolt versus closed bolt, the weight of the weapon. So is this platform being as lighted as it is, which I don't have the weight right now. I should definitely get that though and throw it in there just so that it's there. Like, how much does this rifle weigh compared to a 249 that's also shooting 5.56 at a rapid rate? But yeah, that's the question that I want answered, is what kind of grouping reliability? What does that cone of fire look like? What is that beaten zone probably at? If you're not familiar with either of those terms, the cone of fire would be as rounds come out of the rifle at different trajectories, right? All aimed at the same position, but with the natural deviation of the rifle, the user inputs as the recoil of the rifle is moving your body. Those rounds come out at different angles, and all those angles put together make up your cone of fire, which is the circumference, the outlying rounds, right? You might have one go high left, one go low right. Traditionally, they'll all go generally high and to the right, but you get the point. It's those outlying rounds of the cone make up that cone of fire. Beaten zone is where that cone of fire lands onto the ground. Like at 700 yards, I'm going to have to hold, because I have a 100-yard zero that I'm playing around with for competition purposes. I'm going to have to hold 20 MOA, roughly 20 MOA high, and those rounds are going to arc to the target and have more of a downward trajectory when they reach that 700-yard zone. Them arcing down onto the ground creates that beaten zone. It's just your cone of fire landing at the target area, creating still that oval shape of where those rounds are impacting. Some will impact inside and some will be on the outside, and those ones on the outside make up that area, that cone of fire or beaten zone. So basically, like I said, 100, 300, 700, because those are the ranges that I have available to me here. I'm going to be putting out a target probably like brown side will be the target, and then outline it with some white side so that I can get those misses on there, and try and get a good idea of what that cone of fire looks like coming out of such a light AR platform. I'm going to be doing it from 3 different stages. I don't think I mentioned that. Standing, unsupported, which I don't even know if I'll get 5 rounds on the target at 100 yards, standing unsupported. I probably won't do that at 700. The 2 reliable positions I'm going to do it from are prone on the bipod, loaded, like you would with a 249. And then the last is going to be off the tripod. I'm going to try and rig it in a way, because obviously I don't have T&E. I don't have a 240 tripod where I can lock out my search and traverse measurements, which traverse would be left to right and searching elevation or vertical. On like a 240 tripod, there's tabs you can lock out, specifically those degrees, left to right, up and down, and it will tighten that cone of fire by limiting the amount that the gun can actually move in those directions. And I'm not the most knowledgeable guy on this whatsoever, but I am curious, so here we are. So anyways, like I was saying, I'm going to try and lock out the tripod in a way where I won't be able to limit the traversing of the rifle, but I will be able to limit the searching. So I'm going to try and lock it down in a way where the rifle can't rise up as much. Pretty excited. We're going to get going. I gotta do a lot of walking today. Gotta walk these targets down to distance. So yeah, we're going to get started. All right, we got the first target set up, 100 yards. Gonna do standing, unsupported, 5 rounds. Get on the bipod, front loaded, 5 rounds, and then tripod, 5 rounds. In between each of those, I'm gonna go check the target, mark impacts, get a measurement for the diameter of that cone of fire. Yeah, and then move out to 300 and see what happens. Honestly, depending on how the unsupported standing goes at 100, I might not do that at 300. That's might just be a waste of ammo, but we'll see. All right, now we're rocked and rolling. Standing unsupported, 100 yards. Well, I can tell you that was not all within the target. Not even close. Go see how many rounds I got in there, but that's gonna be an unmeasurable cone of fire because that is not all on the target. But we'll see how many we got on before it walked off. High and to the right, just as it should. Okay, that is pretty disappointing. I really expected to do better on at least the standing at 100 yards. There's my Sharpie. So this side, white target, like I said before, both of these are to collect misses on the main target, just to get more data. However, this target has already been shot several times. I used it for zeroing a couple days ago. So these shots are already marked, so those won't count. We actually only have one impact C-zone. Still a switch C-zone. If you're gonna get a C-zone, that's the place to get it. Why am I having such a hard time saying C-zone? I don't know, but I really expected to get more. I know I was aiming down here, so I might have flinched it, caused the first one to miss, and that's the second one. Yeah, and then the rest high right. I watched the reticle go high right, so Yeah, actually pretty surprised on that. I would have expected more than at least just one. I mean, one's better than none. I would have been super embarrassed if it was none. But, all right. With that, we're gonna move on to bipod in the prone. All right, prone with the bipod, 100 yards. I got this nice rock to really load into it. Oh yeah. Pointing the toes down, pushing into the bipod. Put my ears on. Okay. Actually walked to the left on that. I think most of those shots are gonna be low. I was aiming lower third of the torso at about the C and D line, the C zone and D line, or D zone line. And possibly because of the way that this rock is angled, slanting down low left might be why the gun pushed out to the left. But I don't think I got all 5 shots on the target. But we're gonna go check it out. Okay, so what we have here is pretty interesting. Not as good as I expected. And I wanna go ahead and say, I've never been a 249 gunner. I'm not gonna be the best at this. Obviously, you could always tweak and adjust techniques to make this work out better, but for this test, I don't see any difference between setting up for this and if I just went prone in a specific spot, set the bipod, and started ripping, right? Like a fictional react to contact type of thing. I'm not gonna be able to pick the best spot every time, right? So we've got my first impact. Like I said, aiming down here at the C and D zone. And then second impact, that's the only one on target. The second one looks like it's right here. So immediately shifted off left. Once again, not accurate enough to get an actual cone of fire, but it would be way out this way into this bush back here. I am surprised that I didn't get at least one more impact somewhere here. I'll probably readjust to a more level shooting position for the next bipod iteration, but those two's what we got. All right. I am expecting more out of the tripod though, but we'll see. Okay. Now the way I'm going to set this up is not optimal, and it is not, I would not use it in a fictional real world situation. Only trying to replicate if there was a piece of T&E tripod purpose built for fast semi-auto fire out there, but as far as I know there isn't, and yeah, so we're just kind of improvising here. Okay, and then I'm locking out the ball head with the actual frame that it sits in. Let's see where this is pointing. I think it's high as of right now. It's clearly not the most stable. Yeah, we're a long ways high right now. Okay, that's locked out. Oh, we are right there. I'm gonna push down here. Also, I got a lot of flex in these carbon fiber legs, so that's not ideal, whereas a machine gun tripod would be metal. Lock in a whole lot better. All right, I got it about where I want it right there. we're gonna give that a shot. Okay, went slightly off to the right. I think the last round probably went off target, but I think we might have 4 on there. All right, to my complete and utter disappointment, we've only got 2 impacts on the board. So that was my point of aim. That's number 2. I really expected more out of this. So basically what we're finding, obvious, probably quite obvious, is we are not getting a very tight cone of fire, not a very tight grouping at all. Not even tight enough to measure on this target. I did expect to be able to produce a tighter group, especially with the tripod. I think I'm gonna try that one more time at 100, just to try and get something measurable. But 300 is probably gonna be completely out of the question. Doesn't mean we're not gonna do it, but I'm not expecting to be able to get anything out of that. So we're gonna give this one more go. Probably gonna put my point of aim somewhere here because it did obviously 1, 2 drift off to the right there for the remaining 3 shots. Yeah, let's give it one more before moving it out to 300. 5 more rounds to tripod at 100 yards. See what happens. I'm gonna aim left edge of the target, put some pressure on the front of the gun. All right. From what I can see looking through the optic, my reticle didn't leave the entirety of the target, so we should have 5 impact holes up there. All right, this is actually pretty cool and more of what I was expecting to find the first time. So I adjusted my point of aim. Point of aim for the first volley was right here. My second, my adjust in my fire was here, and looks like we've got, that's probably the first impact. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So 3 on target, 2 mics. So looks like we have a very narrow, vertically narrow cone of fire. Wider. The way I have it on the tripod, it's mostly locked out. There is some play, right? Because it's aluminum and carbon fiber components. There is some vertical play, but it doesn't have anything to lock it out side to side. We can actually pull out the tape measure this time. Looks like we've got 20.5. We can round up and call it 21 inches and about 6 inches searching up and down. I'm not mad about that. I mean, I wouldn't want to have it set up like that. It's a pain to set up, and it's you're not in a prone position, right? Like a 240 tripod, you're gonna be in a prone position firing off of a tripod, which is obviously how you want to be. You don't want to be taking a knee back there behind your tripod, so it's not great, and it is silly, and it looks silly, and it feels silly when you're doing it, but to replicate somewhat of the of having it on some sort of tripod is what I was going for, and obviously produced better results. But I don't think we have to go out to 300 to determine that just having an FRT in your AR does not make you an LMG. That being, I mean, only out of a group of 2, the best that we could do. Maybe we could work on body positioning and pressure on the rifle and stuff to achieve a better result, but I don't think I'm going to be able to replicate this at 300. I think we'll be doing good if we just see 2 hits at 300, much less all 5, which we of course still didn't even get two of them on the actual target. So what's making that not perform as well as like a 249 other than the fact that it is assisted semi-automatic rather than belt-fed automatic like a 249, right? What I'm thinking, the weight of the gun, right? You've got your average AR. I don't know right now what that one weighs. I'll drop it in on the screen somewhere, but you got a 249 weighing like 15 pounds and a 240 weighing 22 pounds. So that extra weight behind the gun helps with the controllability. You see the same thing in precision rifles where guys shooting out past 1,000 yards are using much heavier rifles than what we have in our AR-15s. So same concept, you know, the weight behind that rifle helps control the recoil. You have an explosion happening in the chamber that is pushing the gun into you. With the same explosion, not necessarily the same explosion, but say like a 6-pound 308 gun versus a 12-pound 308 gun, right? Same explosion. You're gonna feel that recoil a lot more with the 6-pound gun rather than the 12-pound gun because it's more weight that the explosion of the round has to push back on. So same concept, 249s and 240s, obviously way heavier than that 16-inch AR-15, and the result is here on the targets. All right, I guess just for shits and giggles, we're gonna throw this out to 300 and see what happens. Okay, so I had to reposition a little bit. I haven't decided yet whether or not I'm gonna do the bipod, because we already know from the 100-yard test that I'll probably get the first impact, but after that, the spread is gonna be so big that I'm not even gonna have another impact on target. I need to adjust this a little bit. Try and get it right there. So I'm trying to get it to where it's not only locked out, but I'm putting pressure, downward pressure on the buttstock to get it on the bottom of the target. Just like at 100 yards, I'm gonna put the reticle on the left edge of the target. I'm gonna go ahead and range just to know what it is, and then I'm gonna dial my elevation. There's not much wind today, maybe 3 miles an hour, left to right, so I'm not worried about that. I'm gonna range this and dial my elevation. Okay, I've got 298, so 2 yards short of 300. That's only gonna be about 4 MOA, so obviously not much of a hold, but I just don't wanna even have to think about it. Well, that's semi. Dang it. What would you call that, a training scar? You're so used to flipping it on semi all the time. When you want to do FRT, you forget you got to go all the way around. All right, that impact is going to be left on the target. So we'll just take mental note of that. Gonna go get one more round. I don't want to walk 300 yards to go mark that shot. I've got probably like 2 meters of visual play, just like this. Okay, visually, looks like we walked off to the right and then walked back. So, might not actually be that bad. I've got high hopes for this one. All right, here we have it, 300 yards off of the tripod. And honestly, not as good as I'd hoped. Visually, I started here with my point of aim, watched it walk, and then watched it walk back. I expected to have more here. So, like you saw, I had one unassisted semi-automatic round prior. So that was one of these two. This looks like it's lined out. This impact here is not lined out. It impacted a previous line. So that's a fresh one. This is a fresh one. And we've got one down here. So I honestly expected to have more on this side because it didn't seem like it walked out very far. But given that my point of aim was here and I impacted about 8 inches to the right for both of those, one of these is the semi unassisted shot, the first round that was fired. Since we don't know and I get to choose, let's say it's this one. And this beautiful A zone, not that beautiful, about an inch and a quarter from the C zone, is the first round. We've got this one here. The next one down here, a mic for the target, but would have been a lower pelvis or upper leg. And that is all that I've got. So like we've confirmed before, you're gonna get about your first round as long as your first round placement is good, and then your cone of fire is gonna expand out, but is not gonna be concentrated in one area. And that might be pretty obvious for a lot of people that have shot weapon systems like this in the past. When I've heard people say, I'm not gonna say who it is, but Cole knows who it is. When they're missing, they'll say, I'll just flip on the FRT and that'll fix my problem. As if they're gonna shoot a laser beam of 5.56 into a central area of where they're aiming. And if you don't know how your FRT is going to perform, that's not going to be the case, especially if, I mean, I've already proven that the cone of fire, the grouping will be tighter on the tripod the way it is, and that is pretty much never how we're shooting our FRTs. So best case scenario, bipod, even that is going to be pretty outside, or a pretty large cone of fire rather, as we've already seen at 100 yards. Maybe I should just go ahead and do it at 300 just to see if it can get better, but I think we all know it's not. Just so that we have some data to compare, let me look up, because I don't know off the top of my head what the beaten zone would be at this distance for a 249. Let's put it into our sponsor, Perplexity. Perplexity is not a sponsor of this channel. Yep, there's no single published official beaten zone dimension for an M249 at 300 yards, but an estimate on level ground is roughly 1 meter wide and on the order of 800 or 80 to 100 meters long for the effective portion of the beaten zone. So it's saying for level ground, rounds coming in, because you're not plunging at 300 yet, right? You're grazing, but it's saying that they will impact roughly 1 meter apart in width and out to 80 to 100 meters in length, which is quite a long way. But once again, we're not at that plunging distance yet. We're still at a grazing distance, which is rounds traveling straight across, which is why you're having that 80 to 100 meter distance in that on level ground. We got about 3 foot 3 inches right there. It's hard to measure in the reticle, right? How much the reticle's traveling. It's not a perfect guesstimate of what my eye saw, but we could say that maybe best case scenario, we're getting close to the same width of cone of fire as a 249. 249 is certainly, as it's fielded in the military, a much better platform at accomplishing this. But let's say, I think I can safely say that with the way it's set up on the tripod, like I said before, would never actually set it up that way. We're at least close to that 1 meter cone of fire. So I wish I could show you. Like I said before, I've got the scope cam coming, so maybe by next week be able to maybe retouch on this a little bit so you can see maybe a little bit slowed down what the reticle travel is on that. But It's not gonna get any better with prone. Ah, what the heck. Let's give it 5 rounds off the bipod, see what happens. I've marked all these, right? Marked. Yep, all right, let's go see what happens. It's not perfect. There's not a whole lot to front load the tripod into other than the dirt. Obviously with 249 tripod, 240 tripod, you want to get those legs into the dirt. And with this Magpul, it's got rubber feet, and I can only really push them into the dirt so much without actually like burying them. And with it being plastic and aluminum, there is a lot of play in that. So I'm gonna front load it as best as I can, toes dug in, and see what happens. Get it into my shoulder a little bit better. All right, got a lot of pressure on here. We're still dialed for 4 MOA. I'm gonna give it more of a left hold, go into FRT. Wow, that was a gassy one. Not sure how that went. But we're gonna find out. I got a lot of gas in my face for that one, so I didn't see the full reticle travel, but I think it went off to the left and I was already aiming left. So we'll see. I don't think that was your typical high and right travel on that one. Yep, so that's about how I thought it would look. Like I said, I didn't know if I even hit it at all, so I'm okay with this, I guess. One impact right here in the D zone, which I was aiming about here, so slightly right. Could be my 0, could be a little bit of wind. Like I said before, it's not hardly windy at all. So it's probably 0 related. So thinking about the practicality of this, obviously if you're good on your first round, you're gonna get that impact, but after that your cone of fire is gonna expand. And unless you're trying to affect a fictional area or combatants in enfilade, you're not gonna stack rounds on target. And unless you know what holds you need for a specific position in order to spread rounds over your target, then you're not going to be any more effective with an FRT than you are with unassisted semi-auto. Based off of today, it seems like there's probably a lot that goes into that, just like with pretty much everything in shooting. On the tripod, I was getting mostly high right because I still had a little bit of play on that y-axis to send rounds up, and then it was shifting right with recoil. However, both of those bipod moving left, I believe, because I do think I probably would have seen at least one more if it was transitioning right. So I'm already thinking about how do I make this better. Maybe like a large white piece of Tyvek or tarp of some kind. But I'm thinking Tyvek strung out to catch all those rounds and have a better representation of what kind of cone of fire can be expected. If there is a legit tripod for this, that would be the way to go, where you can actually, with metal components, lock out your search and traverse up and down play. And body position plays a big role. What kind of bipod? You know, the Magpul bipod is not the best one out there. So there's plenty of other factors that could tighten this up, but I mean, that doesn't take away from FRTs being fun at all. I mean, it is a ton of fun with that assisted trigger reset to help you rip rounds. So with that, I think next, obviously we're not going to be able to collect any sort of data at 700 yards, but I would like to see if I can get an impact with the FRT at 700 yards. So I think we're gonna go over to that target and shoot it off the tripod the way I had it set up and see what happens. All right, so we're set up. I'm gonna be using the Hornady app. I know that that target is at 720 meters, or yards rather, right there, 720. I'm at 19.6. Razor goes in half MOA increments, so I'm gonna round that to 20. It is a little bit windier up on this hilltop, so I'm gonna say we've got a left to right wind, slightly quartering. I don't have a Kestrel, so we're gonna guess 8 miles an hour. I'm gonna go ahead and dial. Hopefully the wind doesn't pick up any more than this. I'm gonna go ahead and dial to 20. I wanna get it dialed to where point aim is point of impact. This target does have a flasher on it, so should be able to see it. The question is, am I gonna be steady enough on this tripod? All right, I've got it right there. Nothing. Hey, that's a hit. Okay, let's see if we can get another one. Nope. 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 All right, I only put 5. I gotta reload. Might have to go to 8 MOA for windage hold. Yeah, I'm gonna switch to 8. I think I'm shaking a little bit too much. I might have to try and figure out something else. Nope. Well, I'm quickly running out of rounds. You know what? Let's do the thing. No, I'm not hitting it in semi, so let's throw an FRT at it, see what happens. It's not gonna work out. All right, 5 rounds. Gonna go back into my original spot. I'm not gonna set the tripod up the way I had it before. I don't think it's gonna make a difference. I'm gonna position it low left and see if we can walk around up onto the target. Well, that is as far as we're gonna get today. I've burned all my ammo, which is pretty much what you can expect when you invest in an FRT. You're gonna burn through ammo pretty quick. Obviously that 700-yard target, based off of what we could see from our 100 and 300, that cone of fire is probably 6 meters wide. Obviously, I can't hit it on semi, I'm just gonna flip it to FRT. Not a viable option, but definitely still fun. I'm heavily considering retouching this subject with like a tarp. I think like a big sheet of Tyvek would probably work pretty well with like a target in the center, see what that full spread is, what that full cone of fire looks like. Which obviously in a fictional scenario where this is being employed as an LMG, an automatic rifleman, part of that is you want a spread of fire. I'm not necessarily trying to laser beam it. I kind of am with the tripod, right? Like I'm trying to narrow that cone of fire down just to see what it can get to, because I mean it would be kind of cool, right, to be able to just like laser beam target. And that's kind of what I think some people think when they're getting an FRT is they're just going to be able to laser beam it. And at close distances, yeah, sure. I'm still curious. I didn't answer all the questions that I wanted to answer today, and I'll probably end up revisiting it, but I hope you learned something, or at least found it interesting. If you've made it this far, at least hit the like button. And if you want to do more, tell me how I should have ran the experiment different, what you would like to see different, and if I should continue down this rabbit hole and do the Tyvek option. But leave that in the comments. Subscribe if you're not already subscribed. Coming up May, mystery operations. It's gonna be pretty fun. So you guys have a nice week.